Welcome everyone, and I'm really thankful to each of you who is spending your Sunday evening in India and Sunday morning in the US or globally who have joined in and who have supported, who have registered. So we are recording the session, and I'm going to send you the recorded video, like by tomorrow or by Tuesday. So today is a very important topic we are going to discuss, which is about the cervical cancer. So we are going to talk about the early detection screening, treatment modalities, surgical considerations, and prevention. So before starting off, and before I introduce you to our esteemed speakers on the forum today, I would like to just give a brief introduction about who we are, who Breast Cancer Hub is. So we are a 501c3 GuyStar Platinum certified 2021 top rated nonprofit organization. I'm Dr. Lopamudra. I'm the founder and president of Breast Cancer Hub. So we started off with breast cancer, but now as you can see that we have branched into different hubs like BCH Wings, cancer hubs, and cervical cancer is another very important, very prevalent type of cancers globally. And unfortunately, in India or in the developing countries, we do not see the screening as much. So that's why it is so important we understand the importance of cervical cancer screening, which we are going to discuss, like our speakers are going to talk about it. And we from Breast Cancer Hub has also created an early detection screening and prevention card, which is a one-stop card, which I'm going to share on the chat forum soon, at the end of the session, and which we have produced with the help of our students, and we did it together. Now, who we are, so basically what we do, our mission. So I resigned from my career in 2017, and since then for the inception of BCH, and we do everything pro bono and voluntary. So we are a volunteer-based organization. So our main focus is early detection and prevention. So for that, we have many awareness sessions, educational sessions, scientific seminars. Then we developed early detection screening cards, cancer articles in simple words, and also many informational videos. And so that, we can generate all the information in simple layman terms to empower everyone about the symptoms of cancers and help detect early and treat accurately. We have conducted many innumerable community outreaches and cancer screening camps in the US and especially in India and also now in Africa. So we have saved innumerable lives by helping to be detected early, analyzing the reports and navigating the suspicious cases towards healthcare facilities and affordable options for the underprivileged and the uninsured populace. And we have follow-ups from patients, and I share my WhatsApp contact number, email address with everyone. So wherever I'm doing the sessions, anyone can reach out to me, and I try to help and guide you to the best of my capacity and possibility. We have adopted villages, and we are the pioneer to do so in India, like to go door to door, penetrate deeper, going to each member, each household, maintaining the database and the follow-ups, and for cancer screening, treatment and management, palliative care and counseling. And we are so grateful to hear Dr. Ravi Kannan sir is here. So we have adopted 11 villages in Kachar, Assam, and we are planning to do more all across India. But in Assam, like when in the Kachar district, so we have collaborated with the Kachar Cancer Hospital and also Silchar Medical College. So we take the patients, it's basically taking care like the suspicious cases, for them food is the priority, health is not the priority. So from taking them to the hospital to, making sure that they are getting treated, following up, accompanying them, helping with the income certificate, everything is Breast Cancer Hub's responsibilities. And I'm so proud of our team in Assam, like who are doing it, our project coordinator, Sana Lembi, our field workers, Sapna, Ranjita, and many others, so, who are doing amazing work, and we have been penetrating. And now I feel so good that from no awareness, now mostly everyone, even if they have simple symptoms, they are going to reach out to us, and we try to help and address the situation. Now, we also have support groups, and we do a lot of counseling. So we have many, many localized support groups for the cancer patients, for their families, so that they can speak to each other, share the emotions. But we also have a very private support group, WhatsApp group, where we are from different corners of the world, but we are emotionally connected and we trust each other. We have oncologists on the forum, we have physicians, we have we have nurses, and we have the survivors who, what we cannot do, me as a scientist or other doctors cannot do, like a survivor does the magic when he or she tells the other fighter that, if she went through this, you can do that too. So that's the strength of the support group. We have a patient treatment bucket which aids the underprivileged in poverty. So we are not government funded. We just run through community donors in the US, or little bit of donations, like, our community is stepping up to help us. And with that minimal aid, we try to provide a minimal, like maybe $200 per patient or $150, which is nothing for a cancer treatment, but we try to do that for the underprivileged sectors because they fall below the poverty line. So we initiate the step of the diagnosis and treatment, and then the government aid comes in. So we are doing similar thing with Africa and India now. So that really helps the patients to help with the diagnosis and the initial treatment till the government and the other aids come in. Our research is very grassroots level now. We are doing a lot of epidemiology research study and clinical data analysis to understand the retrospective problems, and then so that we can help make changes in the healthcare policies with the screening processes. And our research is IRB USA and IEC Institution Ethics Committee India approved. And I'm so thankful to Dr. Rakesh Ramesh. I'm not sure if he's here now. So we have the IEC approval from St. John's Medical Hospital in Bangalore, and Dr. Rakesh is the co-PI for that. So we are doing this kind of research so that we can work more at the grassroots and help the patients or help the community. So yeah, this is all we do. And of course, we have done a lot of work on the COVID-19 responses. But what we believe is that, if we can even save one life, we save a family. And I'm so thankful to our Breast Cancer Hub volunteers, our board members, our teams globally, so that because it's not about one person, because we all are working together, and that's why our tagline is "Together we save lives." So that's who we are, and thank you so much for joining in and listening to me now. And I would like to now start formally introduce you. I know we are waiting to hear from our, I don't know if Dr. Ravi Kannan sir needs an introduction, because he is, I would just like to say something like first time when he's the Padma Shri awardee, and when my dad was still, he passed away in 2020 on February 22nd, but right before that, I think sir was announced, and then he was the first one to call me, and he was so excited. He said, like Ravi Kannan sir got the Padma Shri award. So I think no one was much more happier than my dad, Dr. Chandrasekhar Das. He was a pediatrician. So Dr. Ravi Kannan sir, it's not about how many awards he has won, like I know that he has so many on his plate, but it's about the person who he is. I think that's what the introduction I would give, that such an humble and genuine person, like always there for the people, always there for the patients. And the Barak Valley has been so honored to have you, sir. And we feel like Breast Cancer Hub is so humble that you have agreed and given the consent to be here with us today to share your experiences. So Dr. Ravi Kannan is the director of the Kachar Cancer Hospital and Research Center in Silchar, Assam. And of course, with awards and recognitions, he's a Padma Shri awardee, and he has also many awards on his cap. So he is awarded with the Dr. Kupuswamy Oration and Citation of Honor from Basavatarkaram Indo-American Hospital. Then he is the Telegraph Legend Award. Telegraph True Legend Award 2016 Northeast in recognition of the outstanding achievements. He also won the Northeast India Emirat-e-Sharia and the Nadwa through Tamir Maulana Abdul Jalil Chaudhary Memorial Award in 2015. He is the 16th Bhagwan Mahavir Foundation Award for Excellence in Human Endeavor in 2013. He won the Award for Excellence in the Field of Oncology in 2012 from Cancer Aid and Research Foundation in Mumbai. And he is also known as the Karma Yogi Award winner for the Leonistic year 2010-11. So I'm sure there are many more. But I would say that his mission is to provide comprehensive cancer care to people, especially the underserved, through prevention, treatment, palliative care, education, and research, with a vision that no individual develops cancer that can be prevented, and no patient is denied appropriate cancer treatment for want of resources, and no patient dies in agony and indignity, and that no family suffers treatment-induced poverty and grief. So that's who Dr. Ravi Kannan is. And over to you, sir. And we are very excited to hear from you about the cervical cancer, the screening, treatment, and what you see through your experiences. Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Lopa. I don't have a presentation. I just want to have a freewheeling chat with everybody. Cervical cancer is the second most common cancer in India today. About 30 years ago, it was the commonest cancer. And when I was a resident, in most registries, cervical cancer was the #1 cancer. But as the economy improved, as access to healthcare improved, without any screening program, without any organized vaccination, the incidence of cervical cancer has slowly
I think Mr. Padmanabhan, mute yourself, please. Mr. Padmanabhan,
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm very fine.
Yeah, I think I could mute. So if Mr. Padmanabhan, if you could please kindly mute yourself, that would be so helpful. Thank you so much.
So anyway, without any organized screening or vaccination program, the incidence of cervical cancer has progressively reduced. And except for 2 or 3 registries in the country, most registries, cervical cancer is no longer the commonest cancer in the midst, the second commonest cancer. And very quickly, ovarian and endometrial cancers are likely to overtake cervical cancer in the next few years. Now, this is the good part of it. The bad part of it is it's a organ which produces early symptoms, and despite that, more than 60% of patients even today present with locorenally advanced disease, and that is a major colossal tragedy. Worldwide, we see a little less than 600,000 new cervical cancers, and about half of them will die. But if you look at India, account for almost a fifth of all cervical cancers in the world, and nearly 65-70% of patients with cervical cancer in the country today will die of the cervical cancer eventually, and that is a terrible tragedy. That's a cancer that can be prevented. That's a cancer that can be detected early, and despite that, we lose so many women in the prime of their lives. Now, all of us know almost all cervical cancer happens because of HPV infection, compounded by the fact that there are women, the risk is increased in people who are immunosuppressed, people who have multiple sexual partners, those who have early onset of sexual activity, those who have other STDs like gonorrhea, and women who are multiparous, and then of course women who smoke. Now, we also know that, see, in the country, India has a population of 1.4 billion. Half of that will be women. Even if you assume 20% of the women are in the screen eligible group, that is a huge number for the country to deal with. I mean, it's not possible for us to screen all these women. And for a country like India, I think it makes a lot more meaning to focus on early detection and prevention, primary prevention, early detection. See, we ran a screening program in Dholai. I've spoken about this earlier also. Dholai is a health block in Kachar and has a population of about 200,000 people, out of which screen eligible population is about 60,000 people, out of which women were about 30,000 people. And what we did is we worked with the ASHA, the accredited social health activists, who are the frontline workers in the community. We got them to carry out cancer screening in the community. That was a tweak of the national program announced by the government. The national program envisaged that the ASHA will mobilize the community to come to the sub-centers where the ANM will screen them. But the mathematics is loaded against this policy. 2 ANM account for almost 10,000 population, and they will not be able to carry out any screening activity. So we worked with each ASHA has account for about 1,000 population, out of which screen eligible will be about 300, out of which 150 will be women. And if an ASHA were to screen even 1% per day, in the year she would have completed her whole population. But then they are not medically trained, and so we had to answer several questions when we did this study. We had to see that if the ASHA were willing to do that, if the ASHA could be trained to do this, if the community will accept them in the role, and most importantly, if screening could actually be carried out in the homes of the population. Now, what happened was we were at the end of the study, we were able to answer in the affirmative for all the, we did a time motion study, and we found the ASHA have enough time to do activities beyond what they are doing. They have to be incentivized for every activity, but that is both a strength and a weakness of the program. The ASHA were very competent. What we did is we trained them just to spot normal and abnormal, normal oral cavity, abnormal oral cavity, normal cervix, abnormal cervix. They were taught to do a visual inspection, and anything that they thought was abnormal was then screened by a trained nurse or a doctor. And just about 10% of the population had abnormalities, and that was an imminently manageable situation. So when we looked at the end of the story, we found that, for specifically speaking about cervical cancer, we picked up only 5 cancers and pre-cancers out of 30,000 people. And that is a tremendous amount of effort and expense and labor and time. And we are not sure if that kind of a screening I'm really not sure if that kind of a screening activity would be beneficial. In the study, we also ran a small subplot where we did HPV testing. And we did 2 things. We had the health worker draw a sample for HPV, and then we gave women swab sticks and asked them to deliver a self-drawn sample. And when we compared, we found that self-sampling is as good as a health worker drawn sample. And so that is okay. But then HPV testing, and again, less than about 7 or 8% of the women tested positive for HPV. And so that is a good strategy. Those who are HPV positive, we just pick them up for screening. That is also a doable policy. But look at the country, if you look at the country as a whole, and 20% of, 500 million women have to be screened, it's a huge number. And so HPV testing is expensive. And so we have to find out ways and means to make this happen. But while we keep the expense on one side, we're now doing a second study in Hailakandi district. That's another district near to our own district, where we are looking at creating awareness amongst the population about oral cancer, about diabetes, about hypertension, cervical cancer, breast cancer. And we are trying to see if women who are symptomatic, who have a lump in the breast or a white discharge, who have postcoital bleeding, who have dysuria, will come forward and have themselves screened. And we've just finished about a 10,000 population, and we find that women are willing to come forward and get themselves tested if they have the awareness and if they have access to screening near their homes. Now, that is something that we can look at in the country as a model in the long run, provided we are able to pick up an equal number of cancers and pre-cancers as opposed to the screening project in Dhulai. So that is our own thought is, it is important that we use multiple. See, in the country, we cannot have a one-size-fits-all solution for all parts. India is like a continent. There are places like Mumbai where there's a lot of awareness, lot of education, lot of access. People are wealthier. And then there are parts of the country where everything is a problem. There is no awareness. There is a lot of issues in actually accessing healthcare. There's poverty, there is ignorance. And so we need different strategies and then there are mountains, there are forests, there are rainforests, there are deserts. And so we need different strategies that will work for different areas. And each of us who work in our own areas need to find out ways that are best suited for our own situations. Screening as a policy may be good for certain select populations. If you look at an industrial organization, you look at banks, you look at, you can say all women can come and get screened, all women can have HPV testing, but we're looking at the general population. I'm extremely uncertain whether screening as a strategy can be applied for the whole population. Whereas early detection has a lot to offer. It may be less expensive, it may be less labor intensive, but may end up giving us the same output that a screening exercise could eventually achieve. If we have to train frontline health worker, this is not new to India. Many parts of Africa, have already done similar studies. In 1989, at the Cancer Institute in Chennai, they did a similar study. They used, those days, Tamil Nadu had a class of workers called VHNs, Village Health Nurses. And at the Cancer Institute, the cervical cancer detection program in Virupuram district was the same model, where they had women, the VHNs, examine the cervix and take a smear for PAP testing. Now, those days, that was a time when we were looking at PAP as a model, and they found that samples taken by a doctor and samples taken by the VHN, the concordance was very good. And the second thing, they also demonstrated that when the VHN said that the cervix looks abnormal and the doctor looked at the cervix, again, the concordance was more than 90%. And so this is a model that we could use in many parts of the country. Now, so, and then of course, when we look at screening as an activity, we need to ensure that the treatment access to treatment is ensured. There is no point in having awareness and screening when we cannot ensure access to treatment. And so we have to complete the whole loop, and it requires collaboration between government, between non-government organizations, between private providers. The whole community has to get involved in health promotion. This could be an activity that is tailored towards health promotion. Just as an aside from this, when we talk of cancer prevention, we talk of tobacco and areca, we talk of alcohol, we talk of diet, we talk of exercise, physical fitness, and we talk of untreated infections. Now, so if we take care of these 4 or 5 issues, nearly 70% of cancers, including cervical cancers, can be prevented. And with awareness, a lot more can be detected early. But if you keep cancer aside for a minute, if you look at cardiovascular diseases, if you look at ischemic heart disease, you look at diabetes, you look at hypertension, you look at strokes, you look at a whole lot of other non-communicable diseases, we come back to the same story: tobacco, alcohol, diet, inadequate exercise, and untreated infections. And so when we look at cancer prevention, we are actually promoting health in the community. And if we can take a broad-based outlook, and we have multiple stakeholders in the community participating and promoting health, not only cervical cancer, not only breast cancer, many cancers and many other NCDs could both be prevented, and several diseases can be detected early, thereby improving outcomes and reducing morbidity and expense. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kannan, sir. So that was really great the way you brought it up. So yeah, I mean, in India, that's the biggest challenge, right? So when we adopted the villages, so we are talking about the symptoms of cervical cancer. Of course, breast cancer, we do teach them to do the breast self exam. And when we are going and talking about other symptoms of other types of cancer, so it's very difficult to go and screen everyone with the cervical cancer. But then the suspicious cases, that's when we are taking them to your Qatar Cancer Hospital or Silchar Medical College for the further diagnosis and then for further treatment, which so it's very true that, it's very difficult that the huge population in India, and mostly who are underprivileged, and then closing the loop, like taking them to the hospital, we have to pay the expenses of the transport, because they don't even have that money to do that, then following up whether they're buying the medicines or not. So it's a huge difficult process, but I think it's a model that really works well. So that you are doing is amazing, and we are trying to, that really helps the patients too. But what I see is, Kannan sir, is also like even the women in India. When I'm doing the outreaches all across India, and I'm talking about the cervical cancer screening, like even the social, irrespective of socioeconomic condition or irrespective of education, even if we are having the financial capability to go to the hospitals and do the screening for pap smear, like which we do here as a routine in the US, like once in 3 years, we have to do a pap smear and HPV testing, but still that's not being done. Those who can afford it, those who can take out the time to just go to the hospital once in 3 years. So I would really request our audience here, our esteemed audience here, who are who have the capacity to go and do the screening, please step up and do it. Help your friends to go ahead and do the pap smear, and the HPV test once in 3 years as the protocol if you're sexually active. For the younger population, for the children 11 years and 11 to 12 years, we are giving the HPV vaccination, so which will be like 2 doses, and if they're above 15, then 3 doses. So please ask your gynecologist, ask your pediatrician when you're going to your with your kids, like whether now they're eligible for the HPV vaccination, because these are the different preventative measures. And I'm not talking about the underprivileged sectors, which I know we cannot go and do that because it's difficult, for them. That's not the priority. So we have to take care of the underprivileged populace, one step at a time, like Kannan sir said, and they're doing amazing work. And we from Breast Cancer Hub, we are trying to do that. But those who can afford and those who have the capacity through the social media, please express that, so that we can step up and help other women to go and do the screening. So that would be my 2 cents to Dr. Kannan sir, and I hope you agree with that, right? So if we can help our educated sectors at least do the screening, that also is like a little bit population of the huge population in India that is really reluctant actually to go for the cervical cancer screening. So yeah.
See, the thing is, cervical cancer, like oral cancer, is a disease of the lower socioeconomic strata of society. People who are more affluent, they may not go for cervical cancer screening, but when they have symptoms, their access to healthcare is easier and probably better, which is the reason why cervical cancer does not have, and then lifestyle issues are also there, multiple, we won't go into that, but then cervical cancer is predominantly a disease of the lower socioeconomic strata as opposed to breast and ovarian and endometrial cancers, which are seen in the wealthier population more than in the impoverished groups. And so, yes, those who can afford vaccination should go in for vaccination. Those who can afford to go and get themselves screened should go and get themselves screened, because screening will also involve they will, once they go for cervical cancer screening, the gynecologist will also have a breast cancer examination done. They will also have screening for hypertension. Multiple things will happen when they visit a hospital for any cancer screening. And so, yes, that is one part. The strategy has to be tailored to the location, to the population, to the target group, and it will vary. It cannot be a one-size-fits-all strategy.
No, absolutely, sir. It's like based on the target audience, we have to tailor our, like the screening processes too.
Just like a music program, you may not use the same.
Yeah, very true, very true. No, thank you so much, sir, for your insights. That's so helpful. And I'm now privileged to welcome our next speaker, who is also an amazing, woman who has done so much for the community, so much for the healthcare system, Dr. S. Rekha, who is the National Joint Secretary, IMA CGP Headquarters, Chennai, India. And after completing her graduation in medicine at Kilpauk Medical College in Chennai in 1984, she started her private practice and has been a successful family practitioner till date. She also joined the Indian Medical Association in 2009 to serve the humanity. And she was lot of awards on her cap too, and she was unanimously elected as president of IMA Indian Medical Association, Punnamal High Road branch. She personally organized and conducted several continuing medical education programs, community outreach programs in urban and rural areas, and free immunization camps. She conducted programs and awareness on various special health issues and month programs as advised by WHO, both in national and international front. She was part of the Cancer Awareness Program for Women Associations of GST and Central Excise Chennai South Commissionerate, where the role of family doctor was emphasized to prevent and detect cancer early and cure. In 2021, Dr. Rekha received the Top 10 Women Healthcare Leadership Program by the Golden Aim Awards. She also won the prestigious Best Branch President and Best Overall Performance Branch for the entire state of Tamil Nadu for her Indian Medical Association Punnamelli High Road Branch for the year 2018, awarded by the Indian Medical Association of Tamil Nadu State. And I think she has a personal reason also, like she's associated with Breast Cancer Hub because she lost her mother to breast cancer at the age of 64 due to lack of awareness of the presence of self-examinations and also presentations of the breast cancer. And despite her being a medical professional, she couldn't save her from this. So at the end, it was nothing but a miss of an early diagnosis. So awareness of cancer, and particularly breast cancer, also she is an advocate for. But here today we are going to talk about her about the cervical cancer screening, diagnosis, treatment, management. So over to you, Dr. Rekha, and we are honored to have you here. I'm going to share your presentation now, and then so you can start your talk. And please let me know if you can see the screen, Dr. Rekha, and everyone.
Yes, I can.
Okay, yes, over to you, Dr.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are. Yes.
So thank you, Dr. Lopa, for the kind introduction. Your tireless efforts to go out of the way to help mankind is laudable. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this global webinar commemorative of Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, January 2022. For the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to be talking about cervical cancer awareness and screening scenario in Tamil Nadu, the state to which I belong. This shows us the cervical cancer burden at global level. 6 lakh women diagnosed with cervical cancer and 3.4 lakh deaths due to it in 2020 alone. This is perhaps the reason we are here today. Next slide. Cancer of uterine cervix, which is the mouth of the uterus, is a major health problem faced by Indian women and accounts for around 16% of annual deaths due to it. Its prevalence rate continues to be high in rural areas of India. Why is it so important to screen for cancer cervix? The usual 10 to 20 years of natural history of progression from mild dysplasia, that is, changes in the cells of the cervix, to cancer makes this type of cancer a relatively early preventable disease and provides the rationale for screening. As soon as we find changes in the cells of the cervix of the uterus can be removed, and that solves the problem. Now let's look at the reasons for increasing incidence of cancer cervix in rural India. Early marriage. This custom still prevails in the villages of India, and now during the pandemic, it is even higher. Early age at first childbirth, multiparity, that is multiple pregnancy, poor menstrual hygiene, which leads to reproductive tract infections, especially HPV, that is human papilloma virus infection. Illiteracy, that is lack of knowledge of symptoms like excess bleeding, spotting in between periods, watery discharge, etc. They don't know that they have to seek medical help for that. Psychological factors like fear of pain to undergo the test, low accessibility to healthcare services. In the urban population, the risk factors are consumption of junk food, fatty food, alcohol, etc., stress, lack of exercise leading to obesity, smoking, pollution, all these lower the body's immunity. Long-term use of oral contraceptives, which change the susceptibility of cervical cells to HPV infection, which in most cases causes cervical cancer. Now, what are the steps taken to control the rising incidence at rural level? We have cancer registries, A registry is an information system designed for the collection, storage, and management of data. Dindikal district of Tamil Nadu has one of them, where even house visits are undertaken to complete data. Camp approach. This is used to cover the entire rural population by applying diagnostic methods suitable for the low resource settings of rural India, like visual inspection with acetic acid and visual inspection with Lugol's iodine. The Tamil Nadu Health Services Project for cervical cancer screening trains village health nurses in screening for non-communicable diseases, which includes cancer, hypertension, diabetes, in their screening programs. The project shows that using healthcare workers is feasible and effective. This is the government referral form being used at our primary health centers. We have personal data, date of visit, UID, Chief Minister Health Insurance Scheme number, type of test carried out, and results. The Chief Minister's Health Insurance Scheme covers the entire cost of screening. Tests are carried out, results recorded, and patients are referred to higher centers for follow-up and management. Now, what are the steps taken to control the incidence at urban level? According to the latest WHO guidelines, for general population of women, HPV DNA detection is recommended as the primary screening method, starting at the age of 30 years, with regular testing every 5 to 10 years. While for women with HIV infection, HPV detection starts at the age of 25, with regular screening every 3 to 5 years. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Yeah, I already did it.
Yeah, I've already spoken these two, so please go to the next one.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Now, HPV DNA-based test. As the name suggests, it's a DNA-based test, detects high-risk strains of human papillomavirus. It's a relatively simple test. It is highly sensitive, less prone to human errors. Self-sampling kits are available. You can get them online, take the sample, and hand over to the laboratory. It's actually a boon during the current pandemic situation, since results also are available online. Testing facilities are available at Cancer Institute, Adyar, and Apollo Diagnostic Centers. This test needs to be repeated every 5 years, as against the Pap smear, which is repeated every 3 years. But only thing is that it requires sophisticated infrastructure and it is expensive, and hence cannot be used in the rural settings of India. Primary prevention is carried out by HPV vaccination. We have 3 types of HPV vaccination in India currently. The first one is the bivalent one, which covers 2 strains. For girls between 9 and 14 years, we give 2 doses, 0 and 6 months apart. Between 15 and 26, we give 3 doses, that is 0, 1 and 2 and 6 months apart. The second type is the quadrivalent vaccine, which covers 4 strains, and it protects against genital warts also. Dosage is the same for girls 9 to 14 years, 2 doses, 0 and 6 months, and 15 to 26, 3 doses, 0, 1 and 2 and 6 months. Next is the nanovalent vaccine, that is the 9-valent vaccine covering 9 strains. It was launched in India in September 2021, and it protects against head and neck, oral and anal cancers also. The dosage is the same for girls 9 to 14, 2 doses, 0 and 6 months apart, 15 to 26, 3 doses, 0, 1 and 2 months, and 6 months apart. Now, what are the steps taken by the private sector? The Indian Medical Association, the largest professional body with over 3.5 lakh doctors, has launched a women's cancer awareness program through its Women Doctors Wing in 2021. The project is known as Swayam. Here you will see awareness programs are being conducted, targeting the healthcare workers and staff of hospitals. they're being educated and trained to screen women. By the end of 2022, the target is to screen 1 million women under the Swayam project. So far in Tamil Nadu, till date, 50,000 women have been screened and results are awaited. Global strategy to accelerate the elimination of cervical cancer as a public health problem. To conclude, through cost-effective evidence-based intervention, including human papillomavirus vaccination of girls, screening and treatment of precancerous lesions, and improving access to diagnostic and treatment of invasive cancer, we can eliminate cervical cancer as a public health problem and make it a disease of the past. Together, we can. Thank you for the patient listening. I'll be happy to take questions if any.
So thank you so much, Dr. Rekha. That was so good, like very articulated, and you have put out all the different, the needs and how to do, and about the vaccination schedule and protocol, everything, when can, and even like the boys also can do the HPV vaccination, because my son, my older one, when he turned 11, he got the first dose here. So because, the HPV for the oral cancer and all of that, or anal cancer, so these are susceptible too. So thank you so much for, and this will be put out in our social media, the YouTube link, so anyone can access it. And that was really great. And I'm so thankful to Dr. Kannan sir and you for your talk today, which is so helpful, because screening is so important. And those who can afford it, those who have the accessibility, they need to go ahead and do that, because prevention is, and also like early detection and prevention is always better than cure. So we are starting to have questions. So I will probably just share one thing with our audience, an early detection card that we created, so that so this is something that we have created from Breast Cancer Hub. So probably let me just share this link. Sorry. Then I will, yeah. So this is something that we have created from BCH. So we have given the prevention modes of how to prevent in a visual way, like about getting vaccinated and everything that you and Dr. Kannan sir has mentioned. What are the screening and different ways, so that every woman can become an advocate, and they know, and what are the signs and symptoms. So if you feel it, as Kannan sir said, that it's not possible for everyone to be screened. So, but these are the symptoms. So I'm going to share this link on our chat room, so that you all can please download it and share it in your network, because this is very helpful. And it's really like, this card has, we have got great feedback, and we have made it with our students. So I'm going to just share this before we open it for our chat forum. So I'm going to share two links now. One is for the early detection cards for all other types of cancers too that we have created. Please scroll this through, and you will be able to see all other types of cancer cards. And I'm sharing another link, which is for the cervical cancer early detection, screening, and preventative measure card. So it's like a one-stop. So if you post it, it will be like, it will be like in front of their eyes. So they will know what are the signs and symptoms. And January is the month for cervical cancer awareness. So yeah, so this is what I wanted to say from our side. And to help our community, we have created this in simple words. Now, I would like to open the forum for questions. And I would basically, we have questions coming in. So I would like to go ahead. Maybe Dr. Kannan sir and Dr. Rekha ma'am, either of you can take the question. So I'll go from the first to last. So the first question that came in is, having multiple full-term pregnancies, is it a cause of cervical cancer? So Dr. Rekha, Dr. Kannan sir, if you would like to take it. Having multiple full-term pregnancies, is it a cause of cervical cancer? I don't, according to me, it's not at all. So
no.
Having multiple children is one of the, it's not a cause-effect relationship, but multiparity, more than 3 children, there's a slight extra risk of developing cervical. It just it just means that there is increased sexual activity and there is probably an increased risk of HPV infection. The pregnancy as such does not result in cervical cancer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Kannan and Dr. Rekha. I'm going to the next question. The earlier question was posed by Abbas, and our next question is from Vidya Murlidhar. Does genetics play a big role in cervical cancer, or is it more lifestyle based?
See, I think the question is whether cervical cancer is familial. That is what I think. Is it hereditary? That is what the question, because all cancers have a genetic basis. When I say genetic, it means there is some change happening in the genome. And all cancer, in fact, many diseases have a genetic basis. We are understanding that as we go along. Genetic does not mean hereditary. It does not mean that the disease is transferred from the parent to the progeny. Cervical cancer is not a hereditary cancer. Familial means, does it run in families? So familial cancers can happen because they are hereditary or because of shared lifestyles. And so again, there is not a very strong familial association for cervical cancer.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Kannan, sir. So Vidya, I hope we have answered your question. So yeah, so with the and then sometimes, as Dr. Kannan sir said, it's more like, like any change in the DNA is the reason for the uncontrolled cell division. So there will be some mutation, but it doesn't have to be hereditary. And with cervical cancer, we don't see that for the hereditary, but 5 to 10% usually is genetic role, but with cervical cancer, we don't see that as much. So yes, thank you so much, Kannan sir. So I'm going to, so Gitika, Dr. Gitika Gangola, I met her in Uttarakhand. She's a dentist by profession, but she is a BCH ambassador and also doing research now with me. So Dr. Gitika has mentioned that, hi Gitika, how are you doing? So she has mentioned, Dr. Kannan sir, such an honor to hear from you. Thank you so much for the wonderfully practical information shared. So that was Dr. Gitika. Now, Uma ma'am, I can see your question. Can the government be influenced to hold screening camps? And that's for Dr. Rekha and Dr. Kannan, sir. Can the government be influenced to hold screening camps? I mean, the government is trying, I know that.
Government is trying, but we don't influence the government to do the
See, the
screening.
national guidelines for prevention of NCDs, talks about screening for cervical, breast, oral cancer, diabetes, hypertension, and it envisages employing the ASHA to mobilize the community to come to the health center where the ANM are supposed to carry out the screening activity. But this is some time, and that is why they are looking at converting all the sub centers into health and wellness clinics. Now that is a good plan, but it is going to take time. This change will not happen overnight, but over a period of time, we have the roadmap envisaged, and I think we will eventually reach there.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I don't know. Thing of Omicron also suddenly increasing in a place like India with thick population. I don't know, even ASHA workers are also being exposed, right? I don't know. As you rightly said, doctor, it may take a while, I think, in India. Outreach programs are being held, I know. Camps like Dr. Lopa, of course, there's so much there. And here also, Kidwai and our St. John's hospitals, they all do outreach programs. But right now, given the situation, I don't know how effective it is to spread that awareness. I think it's a big task right now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Uma ma'am. So also, Dr. Gitika has a note for Dr. Rekha. Dr. Rekha ma'am, thank you so much for a comprehensive talk. So that's a note from Dr. Gitika for Dr. Rekha. So, and Uma ma'am said very educative and comprehensive seminar talk. Thank you, Uma ma'am. So Kamala Iyer, she has a question for our speakers. Do the home cervical screening test also provide results immediately like the pregnancy test?
No.
So,
You will have to send it to the laboratory and then you can get the results online.
There are point of care tests now available from Roche, there are tests available, but then they cannot be done at the homes. What Dr. Rekha said, if you do it in a sub-center, you may be able to get the report in the next hour or so. As a point of care, this is possible. But as like a pregnancy test, home screen test is not at the moment available.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Kannan and Dr. Rekha. So our next question is from Bindu Goel. Hello, how painful is the test? So, I mean, I have taken the screening test all the time, Bindu, since the age, because here it's a routine in the US, and it's always better to be safe than sorry. So the pain will be just for a few seconds. That also I wouldn't consider as a pain at all. But every woman's potential to bear the pain is a little different. So I would like to hear it from Dr. Kannan and Dr. Rekha.
Yeah, it actually depends on your mindset. It is something like delivery. The delivery also is pain, but once the child is born, the pain is forgotten. It's something like that.
Yeah,
There's absolutely no pain. It's just a speculum, which is a normal examination during antenatal checkup, that type of pain only. Yeah. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. It's just for a fraction of a second, so that's it. Yeah, thank you so much, Bindu. I hope we answered your question. So our next question is from Priyanka. Does PCOS increase the risk of cervical cancer?
Polycystic ovarian disease does not increase the risk of cervical cancer.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kannan, sir. Okay, so I think rest we have a few more questions from Godavari Saha. How having multiple partners without pregnancy is a risk for cervical cancer?
Yes, it is, because of the HPV infection risk, which goes with sexual activity.
Yes, HPV is the commonest sexually transmitted disease worldwide, and it happens only through skin-to-skin contact, through sexual contact. HPV cannot affect the normal squamous cells. It occurs through microabrasions that happen during sexual activity, and they can only affect the cells in the lowest layer of the epithelium, of the lining of the skin or mucous membranes. And so even if we are not talking of pregnancy, having multiple sexual partners, somebody will be carrying HPV, and it is estimated that 8 or 9 out of 10 people, men and women put together, would develop HPV infection sometime during their life. And the good thing is, most of them, more than 90% of them, will clear the HPV infection in about 2 years. In less than 2 years, most people will clear the infection. Some people, for whatever reason, they are smokers, they have low immunity, for whatever reasons, will persist to have the HPV infection. And out of that, some of them will develop precancers and invasive cancers.
Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
No, does that answer the question? I wanted to know.
Yes, Godavari, I'm sure it answers the question for you. Okay. So Abbas has a direct question, but I can put it out to the forum. Does cervical cancer spread to other organs? How long does it take for cervical cancer to spread to other organs? So any cancer can become metastatic, Abbas, if not taken care at the right time. But yes, Dr. Kannan and Dr. Rekha. He's asking, how long does it take for cervical cancer to spread to other organs?
So, see, if you look at the natural history of cervical cancer, it takes from the point of HPV infection to developing cancer can take anywhere between 10 and 20 years in an immunocompetent individual. In an immunocompromised individual, it may take earlier, the time may be earlier. Once invasive cancer develops, depending on the treatment, depending on many things, untreated, it will slowly progress over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It will spread locally and then spread to lymph nodes in the region and then spread to distant organs in the body.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. And that's why we always kind of trying to push towards the vaccination too for the HPV, so that, in the early age, because that's one of the main reasons for the cervical cancer development. Now, we have a question from Bindu. What is the minimum qualification required to teach someone about screening? The minimum qualification. So we do that with our ASHA workers, with our project coordinators, with our field workers, like I think, yeah, we train.
You can talk about screening to anybody.
Anybody, yeah, that's what we do it with. I go to the schools and colleges, and those who are, because I talk about the vaccination all the time when I'm doing the outreaches in the school, in the colleges, and I'm talking about the cervical cancer screening with the students so that they go and spread it out in their home, in their network, with their moms, and I talk about the symptoms to everyone. So I think it's always better the moment I think I think it's more like how mature the kid is. And I always feel that being transparent with our own kids is very important when they reach a particular age, because it's always better things to be learned from the parents rather than hearing some misinformation from outside. But when I'm doing the outreaches, I do that for everyone, Bindu. So it's very important to know about this. So our next question is from Godavari. In that case, does precaution help? Yes, of course, precaution helps. And I'm sure Dr. Kannan and Dr. Rekha will agree.
I think her question is, does condoms help?
Yes.
That's what I think she's trying to ask.
Yes.
Condoms reduces the risk,
Yes.
but does not eliminate the risk.
Yeah.
Just as HPV vaccination does not eliminate the risk of cervical cancer, it prevents 90% of cervical cancers, but vaccination does not eliminate the need for screening.
Yeah, you have to. And I think Dr. Kannan sir, so that's why it's very important, Godavari, that you can go ahead and go for the screening, for those who feel is the need, because it's a protocol, once, as Dr. Rekha said, that for going and doing the HPV test and the test for the pap smear and the HPV test also, you can go ahead and do that. So that will help you to understand what's going on with your body. And so it's a protocol that we all need to follow. Yes, so we have a question from Dr. Chaturvedi from Swasthava. Hello, yes, Dr. Chaturvedi, you can unmute yourself and pose the question to our speakers.
Thank you so much. Dr. Saab, see, we do a lot of mass cervical cancer screening. In fact, even the last month we did 4 camps with about 125 people, women, including 1 camp we did for the senior citizens, 60 plus. I was trying actually to see if all these tests can be eliminated with a HPV kit. Do we have any kit where, mass screening, it will be economical to have a kit and then try to see that HPV infection is there or not? Am I audible?
Yeah, Dr. Kannan sir, you are muted. Yeah.
So there is no, like somebody else asked, is there a point of care testing? There is a point of, in a camp, if you bring a machine that will test for HPV, it is a high turnover, high throughput. Within an hour, you can test for 80 to 100 people, depending on the size of the machine. And you can test for HPV. If you're asking, is there a home screening test possible? Like somebody else asked about pregnancy, it is not yet available. It may be possible in the next coming few years.
Oh.
But
So,
HPV testing is expensive. It is not cheap, because all of them have to identify the DNA.
Yeah, I was looking for something which is economical and which is more, useful. If any such kit has come out, I understand in Malaysia or somewhere it is available. I thought some light can be thrown by people like you, because your vision is different and your contacts are different.
I am not sure if something like a home test is right now available in the market. I will check and come back to you. Whatever knowledge I have right now, it is not available. A lot of people are looking at it. All the startups.
Sir, you're muted, sir.
Sorry, all these all these startups are looking at seeing if a home screening test is possible. But right now, I'm not really sure if such a test is available anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
Dr.
much.
Kannan, sir. Yeah. So yeah, that's a very valid point. We all like here also. I don't think we have to go to the doctor. They have to do the testing for us. You know, they have to collect the sample in the hospital and do that. So we don't do that at home either. So I'm also not aware of something here in the US or in India till now. Or if anyone knows, then you can please reach out to us and let us know so that we can share this information in our network. That would be helpful. And yes, Dr. Rekha, recently in one of the villages we adopted 11 villages in Kachar, and two villages we compiled to the IMA Swayam project. So Dr. Sarmishta, she's a gynecologist, she's a part of the project. So she did a screening, like cervical cancer screening, the pap smear test for our suspicious cases. You know, like we had a camp, and we are looking into the reports now. And also, like Kannan sir, like you are very right. So you know, like we have, like as Uma ma'am said, that in the COVID situation, right? But we have generated the awareness in the villages we adopted by going door to door, talking about the symptoms. So they actually tell us, you know, and even in the COVID situation, we are taking them to like Silchar Medical College where the pap smear is done. And, you know, like, so we are not stopping ourselves even if Omicron is in there, or for the last, we started this project during the COVID time. So we have been working relentlessly, even when it's COVID time, taking all the precautions, but taking the patients and the suspicious cases. The problem is not us. The problem is the patients do not want to come, because the moment there were so many COVID restrictions in the hospital. Yeah, in between the main centers were closed down, or they would be doing the COVID testing. They would be scared, like if they turn positive, then what will happen? They will be put out somewhere. So these were the challenges, practical challenges we were facing. But eventually, we are trying to help and do to the best of our capacity. So we are doing our best for the underprivileged sector.
The Swayam project of IMA has been implemented in the tea gardens.
Yes,
of,
yes. So that's why, yes, Dr. Rekha. So we did it in the tea garden, Silchar Tea State recently. So I was there in December 18. We just finished it. So we are looking into the reports now. So I just came back from India doing that. Okay, so I think we do not have any more questions on the chat forum, but if anyone would like to unmute yourself, and we will give another 1 or 2 minutes, and before we close our session today, close our forum. So if anyone has any questions, yeah, please unmute. And yes, Uma ma'am.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because one of the points which Dr. Rekha pointed was about the smoking and how it leads to colon cancer. But now it really pains me to see in all our kirana shops, you know, the corner shops of Panbida shops, which are very famous in all our cities in India. Nowadays, I find a lot of educated young ladies smoking more than anything, and it really infuriates me. So though we have put like 80-90% on the cigarette boxes about the throat cancer, lung cancer and all that, but there is nothing awareness built for this colon cancer at all, so cervical cancer. So what is the thought on that? I mean, is there something that we can screen, or we can, I don't know, hold camps again, especially in our Kirana stores corner? It really pains me a lot. And sometimes I really screamed at them, that you're going to be a mother, what are you doing to yourself, But I don't know practically how far it will work in our country. They are educated. They're not uneducated. They're not village ladies. They all are ITites, basically.
See, this is actually a gender issue. In the US, in 1964, the Surgeon General came out with a report saying tobacco causes lung cancer. And in the next 2 decades, the incidence of smoking in men came down, and the incidence of lung cancer started coming down another couple of decades later. But women who started to smoke later, they started to smoke only after World War II, where they participated in the war efforts and they thought they are all equal to men. I'm sure they are, I don't doubt that. But then they got the feeling that they are equal to men, and so they picked up the cigarette as a symbol of equality. And so they started to smoke. There was a march to New York City where thousands of women participated. All of them had a cigarette in their hand, and that was called the Torch of Freedom for women. So because they started late, they started giving up the habit later. So much after lung cancer incidence in men started coming down, lung cancer incidence in women continued to rise. And only now there seems to be a downward trend in lung cancer in women in the US. And so we are also going through the same thing. Women in India traditionally have not been smokers, but now the incidence of smoking in women is probably going up, and it will take some time before, as Dr. Uma points out, we are able to reach out to them and they give it up. You know, it's basically a gender, it's a social issue, you know, but we have to go through it.
Dr. Kannan, Dr. Lopa knows about it. I was taking tobacco for 14 years from 1970 to 84. And I got colon cancer in 2016, 30 years later. I'm a colon cancer survivor.
Right.
Yeah.
All this happened because I took tobacco. I was chewing tobacco for 14 years, right from 1970 to 84.
Yeah, and
So-
I have documented that in your interview that I did with Dr. Chaturvedi in Hyderabad. So when I was in Hyderabad, I did an interview exclusive, and I said you
Yes,
have to
yes.
talk about it, and he did that. So that
Thank you so
that's
much.
how. Thank you so much for the interview, Dr. Chaturvedi. So that's very true, Dr. Kannan sir. So I try my best. I'm doing my best in every forum to talk about stopping tobacco. It's not only the lungs that gets affected, because very less people, even in the US, are aware that smoking is not only restricting, it's not about lung cancer only. It can go, like it is a cause for many other types of cancer. So I have a picture where I show it to everyone that where else it can affect. So these are when people see that, even the women, like young girls, young women, they come up and ask me, like, is this going to affect for their cervix? Because everyone is worried about their pregnancy. So I think those are the different ways, Uma ma'am, we are trying our best. So there are many ways we can. So I feel that it's a huge world, right? I mean, there's so many people, and even if we can help one community, like step by step, that is also an effect we are bringing, at least to translate this information. So wherever now you will be going, you can bring this up to the places, the schools, and everywhere that you go, about the smoking, the effect it has, the detrimental effect. So that's why Dr. Kannan sir is also doing the same, and even with BCH, we are doing an anti-tobacco campaign all across the globe, and also in the villages, where we because in the villages also women smoke this bidi, we call this bidi, and they will be chewing, then cutting the tobacco, like a betel nut. So here in the communities, I'm going and talking, and they're like in front of me only, they're having the tobacco, putting the khaini in their mouth and talking to me. So when I'm telling them this will cause cancer, they're like, "Aap ho na hame batane ke liye." So it's so easy for them, the word cancer. Then I show them the pictures, what actually this can do, and then they get scared, So then I say, like, it's not only about that. You're full, like, it's a financial crunch that you are going to face. If something happens to you, it's not about you, it's about your family. You have to sell those properties to pay the chemotherapy treatment. So you have to think about your family rather than thinking about your own addiction, and that, and what are the different alternatives and how they can get rid of tobacco. That also I try to put it out in them, so that it's not about like stop it. Like, we have to give them an alternative how they can do it. Like, I tell them to drink some tea, or something else, like fennel seeds with different combinations. So some other ways to help them with the addiction, or put them in a group, like, okay, talk to each other how others are trying to comprehend the situation of addiction or their rehab if you're really going into bad tobacco addiction. So anyway, so these are the different ways, but tobacco definitely plays a very difficult. I mean,
Last but not the least, I just want to ask one question.
Okay.
Is this a spurt and mushrooming of fertility centers? So many coming up. In our generation, we never knew what a fertility center was. Is it also a reason because of tobacco? Where men are becoming impotent, and then fertility is not happening. Dr. Kannan, I think I thought you will be able to really open up this topic and tell me what is the effect of tobacco on fertility, and why these fertility centers are coming up.
Tobacco impacts adversely on all stages of pregnancy, from fertility, from inception, from growth of the fetus to timing of delivery and development of the infant. tobacco impacts adversely on all stages of the story. It reduces fertility in both men and women. It increases the risk of abortions. It increases the risk of intrauterine growth, increases the risk of intrauterine growth retardation. It increases the risk of preterm labor. It increases the risk of stillborns, and it increases the risk of growth retardation in newborn infants.
My God, my God.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Kannan. And
Thank you.
earlier,
Thank you so
a
much.
lot of times, many doctors, they were smoking also, like, their family, the wife pregnant is sitting next to them because it was not known what passive smoking can play a role. So, but now a lot of awareness and information is coming up. And I know someone in Charlotte, like, because of passive smoking, she has lung cancer and she never smoked in her life. So these are the really sad stories. But so I think we have a question from Kiran Anandji. Kiranji, would you like to unmute yourself and ask?
I want to ask regarding tobacco as we are talking. I have seen many labor people. They are many ladies. They are having healthy children, and all the time they are keeping tobaccos in the mouth. Maybe we say they are poor. I questioned one lady, and I asked why you are taking this. You are pregnant, ma'am. You don't take this. This is the. I tried to explain her, but she said हमारे यहाँ कुछ नहीं होता. हम सब healthy बच्चों को ही पैदा करते हैं. So what is that story? How they can produce a healthy children while taking? We always say, "Ki I want one boy, one boy." Like they are having many boys and just sleeping under one umbrella, and they are very healthy after taking so much of tobaccos and pan and everything. But how come this is?
It's about data. You see one woman to see many people will come and ask, my grandfather smoked till he was 100 years old and he lived a very good life. The fact is, not everybody who uses tobacco will develop a tobacco related disease. But if you look at the disease spectrum, if you look at cancers, if you look at cardiovascular disease, a majority of people who develop cardiovascular disease are tobacco users. A majority of people who develop lung cancer or laryngeal cancer or mouth cancer are tobacco users. So the thing is, not everybody who uses tobacco will fall prey to a disease because of tobacco. But of those who develop disease, a vast number, a large number, a majority will be tobacco users.
Yeah, we educated people think of all these things, and we really follow also. We advise also others. But these people, they don't listen at all. Sabzi wala dekh lo, dusra dekh lo. Any people like labor are coming, they are having, and they are very healthy, moving. Maybe later on they are getting all that. But if you try to make them understand, sometimes you counseling or you make them try to understand, they don't understand at all. They are still very happy with the tobaccos in the TV also. They said ki TV is shouting every day, don't take tobaccos, and we are still taking, so what?
So we have to improve our communication.
Yeah, to educate the people are very difficult, in fact.
Yeah, so yeah, I think Kiranji, as Dr. Kannan said, that we have to improve our communication. And I would say that we face many challenges too, but we don't give up, and it has to be persistent. And
Yeah.
it's also written that to build up and follow up. So we are doing the same. We are following up on everyone, and we are not like it has to be persistent. It has to be constantly out there talking about it, and they see that what we do is that those patients from the villages itself, we are making them the advocate and telling others, see, this is what happened to them because they were taking it. Then it kind of sinks in. So, it's not that they do not listen, but we have to really, really be persistent and tell them in a way where we show examples of their own people and the statistics. It's not about one person. Like Dr. Kannan said, my own, like in my family, I know someone who has been chewing tobacco all life and nothing happened because there are other environmental factors that play a role. So maybe those factors were not as predominant on the person. So it's not about, so there are other multidisciplinary factors also, which the person can become susceptible, and tobacco can be a major cause because of the other variables that is affecting the person's body. So it's about many things because of which the DNA gets damaged, and there is a repair mechanism constantly in the body that is helping. We have tumor suppressor genes and all of that, but the body has its own capacity. So if the other things are also not looking good, then the person will definitely become susceptible. So that's where the statistics and data is so important. So it's not about one person person, one woman, but it's about the whole scenario, and we have to look at the bigger picture. So yeah, so
I think these kind of healthy talks we should be conveyed to the people are like small bastis and all, like health people. They are telling all these things. I know it's very difficult task. Even somebody will ask me, I also cannot go there. But people, if government they employees, they go, and sometimes they give such talks. It is controlled.
we are doing that, Kiranji. So I know Dr. Kannan sir's group is doing that. Dr. Rekha's group is doing that. Our breast cancer hub, we are constantly doing that. So we all are trying. So it's the population, right? So it's basically we are doing. So it's and we are trying, but we will also expand. Everyone, like the IMA has started the SWAM project. So I think everyone, the government is also doing their best. So, but it has to be like. I mean, we cannot give up thinking that why this is happening. I always feel that even if we can change the mindset of one person, that is also a change and impact we are bringing, because that one person may be able to help the other person. So that's how I always feel that. We have a
Thank you so much.
When we used to go to the theater for movies, there always used to be a clip, saying against smoking and all that. But now the movie theaters are also shut. I think the best other media is a lot of them are stuck to the TV now.
Yeah.
So I think we should have these clips. Somebody has to have small documentary clips which can be shown on the TV now, not the social media.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Against the colon cancer, against cervical cancer, whatever, everything should now come through the TV, because I know even my mates in honor, they always are stuck to the TV or even on the mobile.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point.
Something to reach the mass. Something to reach the masses, because now the theaters are no longer open. Otherwise, we used to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. I think again, it's the government task. We need to activate either IMA or ICMR or whoever it is, the Indian Medical Association. They have to come forward to produce some of those like short documentaries, like a clip, which has more visual impression and effect on the people seeing it. Seeing is believing. Even if, as I told you, I talk and talk every morning, it doesn't seem to have had any effect. So I don't know, maybe all of you doctors who are fighting against all this, I think all of us should make a representation to your governments and say that, why don't you do this in public interest?
Yeah. Probably we can bring this up, but we from BCH we cannot do any advertisement because we have no money to do that, and we can't invite any big celebrities to do that because we don't have money either. So everything 100%.
All the governments have money. We know that.
But I'm saying that with us, everything goes for the cause with the minimal amount that we have. So probably Dr. Kannan sir, Dr. Rekha, others can do it.
Dr. Lopa, if the celebrities stop smoking in the films, who are taken as a role model, that itself will be a big lesson.
Yeah, no, I know.
That's
and many followers.
Remember, they did point out about Amitabh Bachchan. I remember that they did point out about Amitabh Bachchan. Why is he smoking? So that was wrong.
Yes, I know. Yeah, so Kamala has a question. Yeah, so I think
mine is like the HPV, the human papilloma virus, the way it affects the women, right? We get cervical cancer. What happens to the man?
There will be warts and all that around. There will be warts around their genitals and all that.
So probably Dr. Kannan, please.
HPV causes cancers in men also. Anal cancers, penile cancers, oropharyngeal cancers. Yeah. So the role of HPV in cancer causation is expanding. And we know apart from cervical cancers, it causes cancer of the vulva, vagina, penis, anal canal, oropharynx, and probably other sites as well. We don't know more.
Well, thank you, doctor. Probably I'll Google more.
Yeah, so and also like Kamala, in the US, we are giving it to both boys and girls. So as I said, my son, when he just turned 11, we gave him the doctors gave him the first shot. So that was the reason. Yeah. All right. So I think we will, with due respect to, I know Dr. Kannan and Dr. Rekha, you are super busy physicians and oncologists. So, with due respect to our doctors, I think we can close the session.
It is our wonderful privilege to meet Dr. Kannan. Thanks, Lopa,
Yes,
for this.
Thank
I know.
I'm very happy about it.
I am even to meet you also, Dr. Chaturvedi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So
Thank you.
yeah, so I would like to
Thank
formally, I think Kamala, you're muted. So I see a hand from Dr. Mahindra. So Dr. Mahindra, do you have a question? We will just take last one question from you then, because yes, if you can unmute yourself, please, and post the question. You can ask the question directly. If you can, do you have a question, Dr. Mahindra? I saw you, your hand raising. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Dr. Mahindra wanted to say thanks to everyone. So thank you, everyone who appreciated. Thank you, Anjali ji, Vidya, Gitika, everyone who has.
Great job. Great job. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for appreciating our speakers today and for this webinar today. So, and I'm so on behalf of Breast Cancer Hub family, I would like to really thank Dr. Kannan sir and Dr. Rekha madam for your time today. You know, like it's an honor to have you both here with us. And I'm so thankful to all our participants, all our guests, esteemed guests and audience today who have given the time to really take part in such a needed and important session about cervical cancer. So please spread the word. Let's not stop it here. And I'm going to share, when I send the recorded session, I will send the link also to the cervical cancer early detection symptoms and card that we created. Please put it out in your network, because you never know, you know, your one particular like you can help save someone's life, you know. Then also, like as Dr. Kannan sir said, like different communities. So for those who are your domestic help, you know, or those centers who you know are helping you in your house, tell them about this, so that you know, like that is also a way that you are helping to spread the word about cervical cancer signs and symptoms. So saying that, I would like to say bye to everyone and formally close the session. And thank you so much for everyone who came as post questions for us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
you. Thank you.
It's a good night for us.